Ooh, ee, ooh, ah, bing, bang, walla, walla, bing, bang.
Ooh, ee, ooh, ding, dang, walla, lolla, don rang.
Welcome to episode 18 of the Jonathan Creek podcast, where, well, I certainly think that Don Lang is almost a rude name.
Very close.
Type of thing that you might make up if it was your porn star name. I've heard such things exist.
If your surname begins with L and your first name begins with P.
Long Dong Lang, I don't know. Let's move on. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Gerry. How are you this week?
Long.
Makes a change.
I'm okay. What's your thoughts?
The season 3 finale?
Yeah, enjoy it.
Yes, I think it's one of the 2 best episodes of the season.
I would agree, although that doesn't necessarily mean it's fantastic.
No, we've not set too high a bar there.
Nah. What's been happening with you? Anything?
Just, hang on, what's today's date? Today's Christmas Day. I don't know what day this is coming out. I've been enjoying the festive season.
Again?
Yes.
Good.
Yourself?
Yeah, the same sort of
That's
things.
great, isn't it?
Yeah, Valentine's Day just passed.
Yeah.
Or something.
Merry New Year.
This joke is wearing very thin.
Every week.
Okay, so will we review the episode? What's it called again? The Three Gamblers.
The Three Gamblers.
Not the most appropriate title, I wouldn't have thought.
It's not. It's just, we barely mentioned the fact that they gamble.
Frog's Hollow would have been better.
Frogs what?
I bet they do. Got a summary?
I do.
Crack on.
In The Three Gamblers, Jonathan is recruited during his birthday celebrations to help solve the riddle of a corpse that can climb stairs and take revenge on its killers. With the only witness to a serious crime driven to silence by fear of the dead man, can Jonathan find a rational explanation? Or is this one mystery that cannot be solved by the living?
I bet he can. Is it Frog Hollow or Frog's Hollow?
Frog's Hollow, I think.
Is it? Okay. That's where we begin. At night.
With a frog.
Indeed. Followed by a river and then 2 men and a woman who we come to learn are Joe, Floyd and Karen, nervously waiting on a chap named Frank Geiger outside a farmhouse.
Yes.
Joe cracks a joke.
It kind of breaks the tension. It's all very eerie outside this cottage.
What does he suggest?
That Geiger might be arriving by air.
Mm.
He's so non-human. I think there's sort of something of the night about him, isn't there?
Yeah. They decide to head into this creepy, deserted house and are unnerved to find the ugly-toothed Geiger already waiting for them.
Yes, he strikes a match to light a lamp. He's obviously been sitting in the darkness waiting for them.
That's what all good bad guys do.
Yes, it's inevitable.
He also has a gun, and he warns Floyd that he should have came alone as agreed.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he means Floyd should have come alone or the men should have come alone.
No, it's Floyd because he says that him and Karen are a team now. I don't think he was happy that Karen was there.
Right.
Yeah, because they are the 3 gamblers.
Yeah, so they've added an extra person.
Mm-hmm. Floyd tries to stand up to Geiger, who doesn't seem intimidated in any way, and menacingly tells Karen to go find something to heat them up.
Yes, he also pulls out his gun and indicates that if he has a problem, he'll find a solution.
Mm-hmm. Some time passes, and a fire is now on the go, as Geiger outlines what appears to be some sort of heist.
Yeah, Floyd's sitting with him and they're looking at a notebook and going over some plans.
Yeah, I think it's to do with hitting an island somewhere, and that they should then call a man and a number that he's written in his little notebook. Yeah. So that's quite important.
I think it is, and the man's name is Cordelia,
yeah,
I believe. Once that's done, he's to ring Geiger and let him know that he's come back with the stuff, which is not specified, and that everything is fine, and they'll organise for somebody from Amsterdam to come and verify that.
Yeah, there's going to be a handover which has to take place at this farmhouse, and that's when they're going to get paid.
Yeah, after all of this is done.
Yeah, I'd be looking for something up front, I think.
I would imagine so. If any people out there want to bid on our services. We're not the most competent, but we can always joke our way out of a tough situation.
Not even sure about that.
It doesn't usually work, does it?
Nah. Joe Wheeler, he jokes that partially jokes that it would be useful to have the top man's number so that they could cut out the middleman who is Geiger. But as you can imagine, this semi-joke doesn't go down too well.
I don't think Geiger's a joking man,
Nah, he's not, is he?
but I think Joe has given himself an idea.
Indeed. So later that night, Geiger has passed out from drinking, and Joe takes this opportunity to remove the notebook from him.
Yes, it's pulled from his pocket, I believe, which wakes him, but he doesn't.
Yeah, he stirs, he doesn't.
Yeah, but moments later he does kind of get up and wander off.
Yeah, I think he's going to the the toilet, going to relieve himself.
Who knows? But he spots Karen on his way.
And decides to give her a good bit of harassing.
Absolutely does.
Who knows what would have happened if things didn't take a turn.
Well, Floyd interrupts them, and I don't know if he's seen what Joe's up to.
What is Joe up to?
Well, he's taking the notebook and he's copying down this number.
Yeah.
But if Floyd does know what's going on, he doesn't do a very good job at covering for Joe, because...
No, he could have had an argument, or just kept Frank out of the room.
Yeah, or made enough noise that Joe knew he was coming back.
Yeah.
But instead, it's Geiger himself who leads the way back into the room and comes up behind Joe menacingly. He tears the page from the notebook, a second notebook it is, because Joe's obviously brought his own along, and recovers his own notebook.
Before firing a couple of shots at him.
Yeah, a warning shot above his head, and then as he goes to shoot him again, or threatens to shoot him again, he's beaten around the head, presumably to death, by Floyd.
Yeah, who grabbed a poker from the fireplace.
Karen is shocked.
Yeah, because it's not just, let's be clear here, it's not one defensive swipe. He does give him a darn good
Yeah,
thrashing.
I think he's trying to make sure that he's dead.
Quite brutal, and you see, it's quite nice actually, I like the effect. You see the shadow of it, the attack on the wall, and you see Karen's response to this brutality.
Yeah.
But, just like in a good old-fashioned horror movie,
There's a twist.
yeah, he's not dead.
No, Joe lifts the notebook again, and Geiger rises from the dead to attack him.
Yeah, so this time, Floyd grabs Geiger's gun and finishes him off with 6 bullets to the head.
Yeah, he's quite dead. Karen is once again shocked.
You would be, considering what we find out later.
Yeah.
So what do they do?
They take the body downstairs to a basement. They lock it in there with a big key, sort of antique-y looking giant key, and then shift the bookcase over the front of the door so he can't get out.
Worthwhile mentioning, it's shifted over by Floyd. Now, he's a big lad, but, you know, it's a bookcase, an empty-looking bookcase. He moves it fairly easily.
Yeah, he shunts it, but yeah, it's movable.
So they leave, and it's a downpour.
Yes, he takes this key and launches it into the river.
And from there, we head to the theatre,
We do.
where Jonathan is delighted to receive a birthday present from Maddie.
Yes, she's chosen well. It's a book called Cards as Weapons.
I wonder if that's a real book. I've not looked into it.
No, neither did I.
I think it might be.
Possibly. Certainly something similar will be available.
Adam then appears and proudly hands over his gift.
Yes, it's obviously Jonathan's birthday, and he's delighted to receive from Adam an Adam Klaus bath set, which Adam insists is tasteful and not tacky.
Oh, it's certainly not tacky at all.
That's the key thing in merchandising.
Yeah.
Adam's not done, though. That's not his entire gift. I wonder if... I don't think he's self-aware enough for that to be a tongue-in-cheek gift. I think he's serious, but perhaps Jonathan's reaction leads to the additional offer.
Yes, it's an offer of a night in the town. So Jonathan's choice, Adam's footing the bill.
And Jonathan's actually quite excited about this.
Yeah, it's a reasonable enough. I think that's a nice idea.
And he's got an idea for where to go.
And where that is the Trick Joint. I don't like that name.
No.
Looks like a dreadful night. I'm with Adam on this one. Tell us about the Trick Joint.
Well, Adam's sitting there looking very much as he did that night out he had with Kitty in the previous season. Quite bored as a man pulls his sausages from his trousers.
Yeah, it's a backstreet club with less than traditional magicians performing.
Yeah, the main act is a woman named Lizzie Gillespie.
Did you like Lizzie Gillespie?
I presume that's a stage name.
Yes, obviously a play on Dizzy Gillespie.
She's got a trick with a banana. There's a lot of sort of phallic type tricks going on at this event.
Yeah, she encourages Adam to get involved, and I think he plays along pretending that he's enjoying it, but
We soon learn that he did not.
in the toilet he calls it horse shit. But Jonathan, how does he defend it?
He says it's subverting the form.
Yeah, it looks like a dreadful night.
It doesn't look like fun at all.
No. We're back into the main hall, and it's Maddie's turn next to get involved. What happens to her?
Well, there's a fellow with a cleaver, and he's meant to be cutting something, but he cuts his fingers off, and she I think pretends to faint. You think she actually faints, don't you?
I'm not sure. I'm maybe drifting towards your understanding of it.
Yeah.
But watching it the first time, I don't know.
My feeling is she sees this coming. It's so obvious and so lame that she pretends to faint to give them a fright.
Okay, let's go
Because
with
they've
that.
tried to give her a fright.
Fair enough.
But others do not realise this. Jonathan, Lizzie Gillespie, for some reason, and Adam crowd around, and Adam says it's the classic cardiovascular event. She's hardly underweight.
Yes. She gets back on her feet, but has had enough of the evening and wants to go, and I think Adam is happy to leave with her.
Yeah, Jonathan, though, wants to stay to see a couple more of the act. I think he's looking for inspiration for things he can work into Adam's act.
Just before then, I mean, Maddie had invited him to her bedroom that evening, and he declines.
Yeah, it's not even the tactless way that he was doing in the earlier seasons. He just completely doesn't register at all.
Yeah, he's oblivious to... Well, I suppose he's oblivious to perhaps the best way to respond to that type of offer. It's not a case of saying, nah, you're all right.
Yeah, it's almost like he's taking it for granted. To a certain extent, like he's going to go back there later, so it doesn't matter
I think
if he comes now.
Yeah, I mean, I think this relationship, this chemistry has been working on them for so long that perhaps taking it for granted is understandable.
Maybe.
It's not a first date. They're not just trying to impress each other at this stage in their relationship.
Maybe.
In any case, she doesn't seem to be too annoyed because she tells him that it's okay, perhaps after he's finished.
Yeah, she'll wait up.
Yeah.
But she is annoyed, on the other hand, with Adam and asks him on the way to the car to explain what he meant by hardly underweight.
I like that aspect of her character. She always seems up for it than having a kind of poking fun at herself. It'd have been, the character would certainly not have been as sympathetic had she taken umbrage at these sort of insults.
Yeah, no, and she makes them herself. Before Jonathan can move, he's approached by Karen, who we recognise from the opening scene.
Yeah, how would she have found him there?
Well, it's a magic club. Maybe she expects him to hang around magic clubs, but he wasn't going until like an hour before it happened.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of... Yeah, no, I wouldn't expect magicians just to be hanging around magic clubs. That's like saying someone's a stand-up comedian. Oh yeah, you'll definitely find them in a comedy club every night.
Who would she even have asked?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. But anyway, she has tracked him down. Maybe she has resources beyond the obvious.
Yeah, and she wants 5 minutes of his time. So they leave by the back entrance into her car.
But they're spotted.
Yes. Maddie is getting into Adam's Rolls Royce, chauffeur-driven Rolls Royce, and in the rear view mirror sees Jonathan getting into this car with this young lady.
Yeah, and as she is wont to do, assumes that he has stood her up for this other woman, despite there being no reasonable basis for that thought.
Yeah, she must have been thinking as well, I was only with him moments ago. How could he have... Jonathan is not the type to pull...
They sat together the whole night as well. It's not like he was on his own having a chat with folk or anything. Does she think he's arranged to meet this woman?
Anyway, in Karen's car, and via flashback, she explains to Jonathan why she is there and the trouble that she is in.
She does. She goes back to the very beginning of her relationship with Floyd.
Yes, talks about Joe and Geiger, the drug smuggling plan, and the events of the other night, before outlining the foreign drug deal that went wrong and what they did next.
For a couple of months we just went to ground, till it was safe to move. Of course, that's when the rot set in with Floyd. It only took a couple of locals filling his head with all that voodoo and witchcraft stuff to convince him that Joe's death was Geiger's revenge from beyond the grave, and that he was next. I don't know, it just totally seemed to turn his brain. By the time we got back last week, he'd decided the whole thing was a mistake. He was just going to go to the police, tell them everything and hope for the best. I said if that's what he wanted, of course I'd stick by him, but...
Where the place where you were working?
Oh God, if I'd known what it was going to lead to. To check out our story, they took us back there. To Frog Hollow.
And what do we see next?
Oh, the reveal. The big reveal at the top of the stairs.
Yes, but before we get there, The cops, this is
Oh, well, you
odd.
touched on this earlier on. You kind of laid the groundwork for this conversation because we saw Floyd single-handedly place this bookcase at the top of the stairs, blocking this door. The presumption was he's doing this so that nobody can get in or out of that room.
Yeah, I think it's more a case of he's hiding the entrance, making it as unobvious as possible, and in the off chance that perhaps Geiger is still alive to prevent him from escaping.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a suggestion that this is a hidden room and this is part of some kind of mechanism.
But the cops arrive and have to use hammers and crowbars, have to smash a team of at least 3 or 4 cops there.
Yeah.
Why did they move it?
You can understand they can do that to the door because it's locked and the key's not there. But why did they not just shift the bookcase first? Why are they breaking through the bookcase and the door together?
2 of them could easily have done that.
Yes.
I can't think of any reason.
Or they could have got Floyd to do it because he was there and he'd done it before.
Yeah.
And he was there helping them. He was giving them the story.
Yeah, made no sense to me, that.
No. Unless it's something has caused the wood to swell up and it's filling the gap.
But they didn't even try to move it, did they?
No, they just went straight at it with the axes.
Fair enough.
Well, maybe they could have moved it, they just didn't try. But it seems a bit excessive.
Yeah, it'd been easier to move it. It takes a lot more to chop down a cabinet.
Yeah.
Anyway, they open the door eventually, and what do they find?
A finger tip or a row of fingers sticking out under the door, and that causes Karen to scream.
It would do.
She's quite an emotional and edgy person.
So they open up this door, and who is there?
It's the partly decomposed corpse of Geiger has scaled the stairs and is reaching for the door to get his revenge, presumably.
I like the effects, the special effects.
It's a very, I would say that's an iconic image for folk who are fans of the show.
Now, Karen at this insists to Jonathan that, we're back in the car now, that the body was dead when they left him. He had 6 bullets in him, and she wants to know how this could have happened. The voodoo nonsense that we heard in the clip there is getting to her and Floyd.
It's mildly racist, that stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like, we were in a foreign country and they did voodoo.
Yeah, all the witch doctors and things like that, yeah.
It's like borrowing from Gabriel Knight, who was a popular computer game at the time with a lot of voodoo-themed crimes in it, I think.
Sure. Jonathan, as usual, isn't massively keen to get involved.
He tries to leave. She's very disappointed.
But she pleads and tells him that Floyd has been remanded in custody and she herself is on bail, but really wants an explanation before this whole situation sends him completely out of his mind.
Yeah, he's convinced that Geiger is coming for him, some sort of Geiger counter, perhaps.
Yeah, he's not the sharpest tool around, is he?
Yeah, he's a sandwich short of a toolbox.
Over to Maddie's flat for the first time this week.
Yes, she's in a strop again, doing her traditional thing.
She's doing a bit of boozing as well.
She's having a couple of wines, which presumably were not wine, given the circumstances.
I presume not.
Prop wine. And as Jonathan comes to the door, rings the bell and yells at her, she won't let him in and nonchalantly ignores him.
Yeah, as he tries to plead his case, a nosy, hair-netted neighbour appears sternly. I'd have told him to bugger off and mind his own business.
Well, to be fair, he is making a lot of noise in the close.
Not that much noise.
Yeah, I was hoping the neighbour would throw a cat at him or something.
Anyway, at this, Jonathan departs.
Yeah, he looks a bit shamed, perhaps realising that he's coming across quite aggressively, and then leaves the building.
So we're back to the theatre. Adam is reading an invite to the British Magic Awards,
Something like that.
where he has been shortlisted for
Best TV male illusion or best male TV illusionist.
something like that. And Jonathan is there practising some of his new tricks from his new book.
Guess his card skills.
We hear of Jonathan Ross here.
We do. The well-known British television chat show. Obviously, he was on the BBC at that point, which would be why it would be Graham Norton if they did it nowadays, I'd imagine.
Yeah, a little bit of wrist action and
Always
discussed.
good to keep that practice. Seems a Jonathan Ross staple.
Yeah. Adam is contemplating not going on his new talk show.
Yes, he's not sure about the look with the judges weighing their decision.
Yeah, but Jonathan suggests that it may well be good for his campaign for this award because the judges may well look favourably upon an appearance, certainly if he comes across well.
Yeah, and it raises the profile of the Magic Awards.
Something else would also come across well for the judges. Can you remember what that was?
Yeah, if he gets his charity work a mention on the show.
We cut quickly to him trying not to boast about his charity work that he doesn't like to talk about to one of Ross's researchers.
It's one of those typical, I don't like to talk about how much great work I do for the less fortunate.
As he hands over 3 or 4 sheets of
A dossier.
Yeah, now, has that been made up, or do you think he actually does that?
I'm sure he does. I would imagine that
You would assume that Adam's the type of man who would do lots of charity work.
I would imagine that he is pointed in the correct direction.
By whom? You never see an agent for Adam.
No, I think Jonathan will do it.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I don't think. Jonathan's not your
I would imagine that Jonathan also does the charity work.
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Okay.
Quite, it'll be tax deductible.
Yeah, but Jonathan's not got a business. He doesn't think about all these things. It'd have been good if Barry, Maddie's agent, was also... See, that could have been how they met as well.
If
Could have been some connection there, yeah, shared agent.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you remember, you've seen him sending Jonathan off to do errands, take flowers to women and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Jonathan just does what he's told. Doesn't come up with anything
Yeah.
other than the tricks.
There must be producers and stuff behind. There must be more people. We just don't see them.
It'd be good to see them.
Yeah.
A manager for Adam would be interesting.
It might be boring to see them. Depends how they do it.
Fair enough. Let's move on.
At this point, there's a phone call for Jonathan.
Yeah, from Maddie.
Yes, they're getting more and more technologically advanced as the years go by. That actually was quite reflective of the late 90s when mobile phone technology was rapidly improving.
Yes. They seem to have gotten over the misunderstanding from the previous night.
I think Maddie's realised that she was at fault. She takes the blame for this.
Yeah. And yeah, as you say, the magic of modern telephony is put to good use here.
Yeah, he asks her the time, I think, and she says it's 28 minutes past 1 and
29 minutes
29
past.
and she'll meet him at 1:30.
Yeah.
It takes him a wee second to clock what's going on.
And some curtains opened or something and she's right behind him.
Yeah, she was on the stage all along. A bit like last time, the trick with Jonathan standing behind his compatriot. You would have heard her speaking from behind that curtain. But the magic of television is fine. We like it.
From the theatre, we go to the police station, where Floyd is rambling in fear as Jonathan and Maddie look on with Karen and a DI Gallo.
Yeah, Floyd thinks that he's only killed the part of Geiger that you can see. But that doesn't make sense because if the corpse was moving, he didn't even kill the part that you can see.
And he's scared of what Geiger will do to him from beyond the grave.
Yeah. I mean, I presume in his head what's happened here is that the evil spirit that possessed Geiger has found it couldn't get the body out the cellar and has left the body to conduct its evil deeds elsewhere.
Yet he then more sinisterly, certainly from Karen's perspective, promises that he would never hurt her because she is the only thing keeping him sane. So if he goes insane, then he might try and hurt her.
Yeah, or if she disappears, he'll hurt everybody. That's manipulative, isn't it? He's manipulating her not into not abandoning him.
Although I'm not sure if he's doing that deliberately.
Emotional blackmail.
We head up to D.I. Gallo's office to discuss the case further.
Yeah, he is not a Gideon Prick. Very different type of investigator.
He is. He's certainly not as dynamic as him.
Or intuitive.
Yeah, he's more realistic.
Yeah. He's puzzled by the Geiger corpse making its way up the stairs as well, as you would be.
Yeah, however, he is more interested in finding out the name of the top drug dealer that's been written on this piece of paper.
Yes, they don't have any information.
No, I don't know if we mentioned, it went missing.
The piece of paper did?
Yes.
Or the whole notebook? The notebook went missing in Haiti, yes.
Yep.
We didn't get the whole story of that from Karen, but yes, during this raid in Haiti where they were busted by the police, the notebook has disappeared.
Yeah, but at the time in the farmhouse, the piece of paper, the scrap of paper, which Joe had written the name on, was taken back again by Geiger and placed in his pocket, so that should still have been there.
And it was. They went and found it, but it was blank. It's a riddle, but I think that gave me the answer. I figured the puzzle out at this point.
Okay, well done.
We'll save it for later because I was right. I'm sure others were probably quicker. They maybe solved it as soon as they saw the body.
Maybe. At this point, Gallo asks Karen to hand him the Socko report from behind her, which she does, without question.
Yes.
And he states that Floyd is the only person still alive that can provide the name that was written on this piece of paper. So Geiger's dead. Again, did we clarify? Joe Wheeler, he died in the raid.
He was shot in the back by the police when they tried to escape.
Yep. So the cops are obviously after this drug kingpin. And Floyd is the link.
Yeah, I think there's mention, I'm not sure it's now or later, that they got plenty of names of underlings and they've got little people, but they want the guy behind it all.
Karen, however, is more concerned with the effect any pressure applied to Floyd might have on his...
Yeah, if they try and get him to give up the name against his will, it might push him over the edge.
Over to Adam's house. What's he doing?
He's watching back his appearance on Jonathan Ross, where he has cheekily adopted the entire act of Lizzie Gillespie with the banana, and Jonathan's talk about subverting the form.
He has. So it seems to be going well. It doesn't end well, however.
Yeah, no, Lizzie Gillespie's in the audience and accuses him of stealing the trick, but he's the bigger name. So why would anyone believe that she's not just a crazy person? She gets escorted out the studio. I don't think this reflects too badly on Adam. Just that there's an idiot in the audience.
I'm not sure. I think a lot of people would assume that there are, whether it's more common in, I think, in comedy circles. There'll be plenty of comedy writers and less famous comedians who have their jokes stolen. I think
and they don't appear in the audience yelling it, and if they did, it would be cut out of the final broadcast.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't show that. And
they would write a blog about it and they would get ignored.
And how did she know that he was going to be on the show?
It's a complete coincidence.
And from there we head over to the countryside, down towards Frog Hollow.
Yeah, and we get the typical Maddie's bad at driving trope coming back in for the first time in a wee while.
Yes, in an attempt at a shortcut, they find themselves stuck in the mud. And Jonathan gets covered in mud. Yeah,
as he's trying to push the car, and I think the rain starts, does it? Or at least if it doesn't start, it's certainly damp anyway.
He loses his phone, don't think he realises.
Well, he doesn't seem to realise, but it doesn't really get mentioned again. I think there must be a scene cut at some point because he does ask to borrow Maddie's phone later.
Yeah, so he must have realised that he doesn't have his own. So on the walk down to the farmhouse from wherever they ditched the car, Jonathan doesn't think that Maddie's explanations for the situation are plausible.
Well, she's got a couple of theories, isn't she?
What are they?
Firstly, that maybe someone's been in there, moved the corpse, and then blocked it all back up again on the way out. And his reasoning for that not being possible is the trouble that the police took to get in. But we've already said that was unnecessary. So maybe that did happen, or maybe it could have happened. But then there was no key for the door, so how did they get in the door?
What was our second?
Perhaps there's a second exit to the
cellar.
There doesn't seem to be. We've been through this locked room scenario before. It's not usually a hidden secret exit, is it? It's too obvious, too easy.
There also appears to be a bit of tension over some song lyrics. I think we heard that at the top of the podcast.
We did, yes.
Before Jonathan gets distracted by the lack of police presence at the farmhouse, which you can see ahead.
Yes, and that maybe should have been a warning to them.
So we're down at the farmhouse, and inside, Maddie is not giving up on her theories, and Jonathan has to try and get her to be quiet.
So, all right, how about the writing on that paper was done in some kind of special ink, designed to fade away before anyone could see it? The dead body was obviously dragged up the steps using, I don't know, a rope or some wire that was fed underneath the door. Motive for it all, obviously, to turn our ex-boxer guy into a gibbering wreck, so he'd be too scared to go to the police.
Oh, will you just slow down? Stop thinking with your mouth for a second. Give your brain a chance to function. How are you going to connect a rope to a body through a cupboard and a locked door? Why would Wheeler use disappearing ink in his own notebook? If you wanted to keep Floyd quiet, why not put a bullet in his brain? You've got to clear your mind of obviouslies. Let it all bed in. And observe. What's that?
Don't know. Old cigarette card. So, okay then. Into the bowels of hell.
So after noting this cigarette card, they venture down to the cellar, and Jonathan notes the stench of death.
Maybe it's just damp, who knows?
Does Maddie not hold her hand up to that one and say That's what her perfume she's wearing, stench of death.
Ode. Yeah. That's something I was talking to someone about that recently, and I looked it up because my girlfriend had been watching The Walking Dead from the start. She didn't used to, so she's been binging it. And it occurred to me, do these zombies not stink? So I googled it, and apparently the stench of death is so bad that the whole show is unrealistic. So it's probably realistic here that even though the corpse is away, the fact it was there for so long, there would be a lingering odour.
We have another point of view shot of someone approaching the building.
Ooh.
And as Jonathan pokes around, Maddie tells him that there is something about Karen that doesn't sit quite right with her.
Yeah, I think that's understandable because Karen's very sort of detached from it all, isn't she, when she speaks?
Yeah, but it's more than that because we find out at the end what it is specifically. But she can't put her finger on it at this point.
I'm just saying that because if there wasn't something that seemed weird to us about Karen, it would seem a weird thing to say.
Yeah. So as she is talking, Jonathan has found the album that houses these cigarette cards that are lying around and eventually finds missing Dennis Compton.
Do we assume that people know who Dennis Compton is?
I think so. I mean, for people our age in Scotland, probably less.
Yeah, he's very much an English icon, sporting icon. I think he played for both football and cricket internationally for England.
And Arsenal, was it?
He played for Arsenal, but I think cricket is where he was the big star, but he did also play football at a high level. He only died a few years before this episode came out.
There you go. All the time, Maddie is eating jelly babies.
Oh, this is concerning.
Well, for most of the time, because at one point it's not a jelly baby.
Yeah, it's a live slug that got in her bag of jelly babies.
Yep, a chaplain's moustache.
If you've watched or listened to our Blackadder podcast, you'll know all about that by now. I hope, thinking about my timing, yes, you'll know either by now or very soon.
A slug couldn't get in there in that.
No, it doesn't make sense. It wouldn't move that quickly.
Yeah.
No, and also Jonathan surely would have warned her before she put it in her mouth if he knew.
Anyway, he claims that he has found something and it's enough to confirm that they are in fact not dealing with a witchcraft or zombies.
So what's he found? His senses.
And he is in the middle of commending the fascinating solution that he's discovered.
Oh, it's his usual spiel. It's like, oh, I'm brilliant, I figured it out, and I'm not telling you, even though you are my partner, and I will eventually tell you. It's almost like he's taunting her every week in this show. It's like, you should have figured this out, but you're not as smart as me.
Well, he's taunting the audience in that case then.
That as well.
Yeah.
You hope it's good-natured, but it doesn't always come across that way.
No. But they hear a noise at this point and return back up the stairs. And they're startled to find what?
A face looking in the window. That's a good little jump.
Yeah, it was quite creepy, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit like the one with the old Mother Redcap when Maddie looked out the window and pretended she'd seen something and people were dying.
Back in Adam's house, he is still worrying over the awards night and he wants to know if he's won or not because he's not going to bother turning up if it's someone else who's going to get it.
Yeah, he's quite egotistical like that. He's of the view that people who are going to win will know, and the only way to be sure that he's wrong is to check with all the other nominees to make sure none of them know either. Yeah,
so he phones them up and congratulates them, and when the first couple don't know what he's talking about, he's happy enough and checks them off the list, but...
Yeah, the last one does know that they have won. And he's outraged.
Yeah, I thought it was a fair representation actually of Clint Eastwood as he begrudgingly congratulated her. There was a touch of the Eastwoods about him there.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably how Clint Eastwood would feel. He's a bit of an arse, isn't he?
Some might say.
You'll have to look at him empty cheering Barack Obama.
Yeah, in fairness, I did read a couple of articles, interviews with him after that, where he offered a reasonable explanation, but I'm not sure if I buy it or not. But anyway, that's for another day.
Another discussion.
During all these phone calls, who else is in the room?
Well, there's a woman in a sack at his feet. I presume a woman.
Yeah, I think
an assistant of some kind.
Mm-hmm. I'm presuming it's an assistant.
Some kind of escapology, unless it's some kind of weird private game going.
I would not put it past Adam. Yeah,
it could be that. Yes, this is him stalling for time to make his phone calls. So you get out of there, honey. Did you get the name of the winning act?
Was that Deborah Cadabra?
Yeah,
a transvestite.
Well, yes, it's a drag act. He says because obviously it's best male TV, and she's called Deborah. But yeah, he says it's a drag act.
Okay.
And he's outraged by this, but I don't see why that would make any difference.
Yeah.
There's plenty of popular drag. I mean, Lily Savage and Dame Edna would have been quite big at that point, I think.
Oh, yeah.
None of them are a disgrace by now, are they? We can mention them.
Well, listen, we need to be very careful. Not at this point, but who knows? We've got a few weeks until this is published.
There's not yet any convincing evidence against either man.
Is Dame Edna still alive?
Barry Humphries, yes.
Yeah, is she?
He was one of the big ogres in the Hobbit movies recently.
Recently?
5 years? Less than 5 years. 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years is a long time when you're old.
He's not that old.
Yeah, I'm sure he's, 80s?
Is he?
I think so.
Well, we'll leave that.
I'm sure he's still healthy, and long may that continue.
Yes,
Unless, of course, he has been up to dodgy stuff, and in which case, good riddance.
Less said about that, the better. Let's move on. There's no definitive proof.
Back to the farmhouse. And it turns out that the face at the window belongs to a young-looking cop named Derek Sprightly, I think.
Okay, I don't think his name's that important.
No, and he claims that he is waiting to be relieved. I'm not sure of what.
Yeah, presumably he's worried about being relieved of duty, but yeah, it does seem, with what Jonathan observed earlier about the police being absent from outside the property, it's a bit suspicious looking. Very.
He also seems very nervous about what might happen when the cast of Goodfellows turns up looking for whatever they're looking for.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, the reference being if the drug gang have some sort of use for this location or need to come to this location, it's going to look bad for him.
Jonathan then decides to call for assistance, and having lost his own phone and discovering that Maddie has left her phone in the car, he sets off to get it.
Does he refer to losing it? I think,
no, he doesn't.
Yeah, so I think there must be a cut here where he refers to not being able to find his own phone and must have dropped it or something.
So we see him head off to the car, and as he leans in to get it, we've got another point of view shot and see Jonathan turn around with a look of shock on his face.
Yes.
Back in the farmhouse, what's Maddie doing?
Yeah, she's talking to this policeman, worrying about drug dealers, but she's assuming that they'll stay away with signs of the police around.
Mm-hmm. She is poking around and opens a cupboard. What does she witness?
Well, there'll be flashbacks to the second or third episode when she found a body in her wardrobe at home.
Yeah,
because there's a dead man in this cupboard here.
But more worryingly, the young supposed cop appears behind her with a gun.
Yeah, he's not a cop. He's killed the cop.
He's not old enough to be a cop.
No, obviously. Maddie comes very quickly to the realisation that this is one of the Amsterdam mob.
And we cut to a police car. So the POV was Gallo, or certainly one of the other cops.
Yeah, and he and Jonathan and their team speed towards the cottage. They'd had a call from their officer on the scene about an armed guy snooping around. Jonathan looks particularly worried.
Yeah, I think Gallo says that they suspect that this chap may have been sent by the drugs gang.
Obviously.
Back to the farmhouse. They pull up and this was not on. Gallo suggests that Jonathan tries to get Maddie out, so he enters.
Well, Jonathan's obviously told him that the guy's pretending to be a policeman.
Mm-hmm.
So they maybe think, well, if he doesn't realise there's anything wrong, despite the fact they've pulled up in a police car outside the property, maybe you've got a chance you can get in there and you and Maddie can get out. But that is very, very risky.
There's no chance that would be allowed.
No, not nowadays. Not under rules and regulations. Maybe back in the day they wouldn't mind too much about one member of the public.
It doesn't matter, because before they can do anything, the armed man appears holding Maddie hostage.
Okay, listen up out here. Important things you should know. I'm not a real policeman. I'm also not a very nice person. The people I work for don't pay me to be nice. Last count, I killed 11 people, and we can make it 12. The decision's yours. Or you can back off away from that Jeep. All of you get right back! And watch me drive the hell out of here. Once I'm clear, then I'll release her.
How do we know that?
You're right. I may still kill her. It's not much of a gamble, really, is it?
Maddie reprises her fainting trick, which is a bold gambit in the circumstances.
It is. And what happens next?
The guy falls for it, thankfully.
and requests that the duffel coat take her place.
Paddington Bear, who happens to be wandering by. Jonathan, for it is in fact he who has been summoned, gives the nod to the police to prepare to fire.
Yes, and he walks forward, hands raised, and as he does, we see that he has secreted a card on the back of one of his hands.
Some kind of faux shuriken, because he tosses it violently at the man and takes his eye out.
Well, it certainly distracts him enough for one of the snipers to snipe.
Yeah, I think they shoot him in a non-lethal way, which again is bold given he has a gun.
Mm-hmm. And we see, as he's lying down, a bag of drugs being pulled from his pocket.
Oh, that's convenient, because that's obviously what he would be doing with the drugs.
Jonathan runs over to console or comfort Maddie.
Yeah, and she makes a bizarre comment.
What's that?
She says, "If you'd missed, I'd be dead." How did she know what he did?
Good point.
Maybe she heard the card whistling through the air behind her.
Or maybe she was looking up at that point, because we didn't see, so she faints initially, but then once Jonathan starts to move forward, she peeks out.
Maybe. Or maybe he's rushed over and said, "Did you see what I did?"
Yeah.
I just didn't hear it.
Jonathan says that he did miss.
Yes, he was aiming for his balls.
Over to the theatre. Adam's sitting down, he's quite melancholic.
Yeah, he's on the phone, and Maddie arrives, and he tells her he's going to skip these awards.
Yeah, he pulls out his guitar and starts strumming some blues.
Yes, his alternative plan, like Woody Allen, who avoids the Oscars apparently.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to go and play
Talking off. Anyway.
He's going to go and play the blues. Jonathan then speaks to Maddie and says that Adam's getting a special achievement award, a lifetime award.
Yes, but it's on the hush-hush.
Yeah. Obviously he's hoping Maddie might spill this, I think. Given that Adam has threatened to not attend the event.
Yeah, and we also hear that something's happened since the last scene. They have done some more investigation and have come up with a solution. So Maddie's in on it this time.
Yeah, she knows what's going on. She speaks again briefly to Adam, who asks her to fetch something from the hidden shelf. She doesn't know the reference he gives. It's a magician's term.
A savant something or other. It's a magician's.
I can't remember what it was. Yes, but when he explains, it gives her
it's a Jonathan-esque eureka moment.
Yeah, exactly. A Jonathan-esque eureka moment is exactly the right phrase.
And from the theatre, we head to the jail cell.
Yes, where Jonathan explains it all.
Yeah, we've got Maddie, Jonathan, D.I. Gallo and Karen. They're meeting with a still very disturbed Floyd with the aim of offering an explanation that will help put an end to his fears of voodoo and other such garbage.
Yes.
And so, Jonathan begins his wrap-up summary.
Problem all along here, Floyd, was the demons were in place before you'd even started. You've already got this guy pegged as something out of Hellraiser 3. Someone you can't write off, maybe, even when they're dead. And if anyone was dead when you sealed off that cellar, it was Frank Geiger. So when you come back, find his corpse at the top of the steps, clawing at the door, what else are you going to think? There's got to be some kind of force at work here. A force so evil and unholy, it can not only cause a dead man to rise up from the floor, but 3 cigarette cards as well. And a force which, for reasons best known to itself, can cause writing to miraculously vanish from a piece of paper. Yes, I think you must begin to see now where all this is heading.
So, where is this heading, Ian?
There was a flood. It's basically a 3 or 4 word summary of the whole thing. I think, yeah, the evidence kind of shows it. You'd have thought the cigarette cards might have been a bit more dilapidated if they'd really been soaking wet.
And surely
a bit of paper might have stuck to the inside of the pocket. And
Geiger himself must have been sodden to the extent he had a big leather jacket on.
Well, I think they're saying the flood was the night of the murder or killing, and it's then 3 months later, so things might not actually be wet, but there would still be signs of having been wet, like paper curls up at the edges that, anyway. We'll let them away with it because it's television and it was entertaining and I liked the episode.
Fair enough.
Maddie's got a bit of a moment.
She does.
for the first time, maybe, she gets a proper reveal of her own. I mean, she's been in on reveals, chipping in little bits of information, but this is one that's all her own.
Tell us about this, about Maddie's moment in the limelight.
Well, after Floyd and Karen are left alone to figure out the name of this drug kingpin that may be somewhere in the recesses of Floyd's memory, Maddie announces to Gallo that they know that Karen's a cop and has been all along.
How did they know that, or how did she know that?
Well, the big giveaway was the Socko file. She was asked for a Socko file and she went straight for the right thing without asking what that was or where it might be. But there's other little nods and hints along the way.
But how did she connect? Can you remember? It was Adam's.
Yes, it was like we said, the hidden shelf when she had the Eureka moment. We talked about the Eureka moment, yeah. That reminded her, there was a term she didn't know. How could she know? So similarly, how could Karen really know what a Socko report was?
Yeah, so we find out that she has been undercover to try and infiltrate this gang and whatever, get them.
Yeah, she was posing as a waitress in a cocktail bar when they met her.
That much is true.
Gallo's not sympathetic, though. He's basically saying, this is modern policing, this is how we get results, and screw you.
Pretty much, yeah.
I like John Bird. He was always, like Bremner, Bird and Fortune was one of the shows that I would... Well, it wasn't really. It was Rory Bremner's show where John Bird and John
Guest
Fortune had their
appearances.
own little bits that I grew up with. We go to the Magic Awards now, so we fast forward, I think, a fair wee bit.
A tuxedo that Jonathan is worried that Adam has not shown up yet.
And Maddie says, of course he's not coming, because I didn't tell him about his special award and he had no plans to come.
And as you mentioned, Jonathan is unhappy about that. It's a touch of the chunk from the Goonies. So when they wanted to smash the glass case with the pirate map, they give it to Chunk and then count down, because they know he's guaranteed to smash it.
Yeah.
So it's the same situation here. He was anticipating Maddie spilling the beans.
But this one time she didn't do it.
No.
I didn't really get this reference though. So Jonathan figures out where Adam is and looks horrified. Where is he? Other than in a skanky pub where people...
It's just a blues dive bar.
So it's not a specific place that's got that I should have recognised the reference.
Don't think so.
Okay.
So we go to the dive bar and we see on stage Adam pouring his heart and soul and emotions out to the fighting and listening world.
Yeah. A guy literally spews on his feet.
Yeah, it's a cliched drunken Scot.
Is he Scottish?
I think he shouts out, "Hey, Jimmy," and then spews on Adam's.
That's racist.
Very racist. Appalling.
It might be the worst moment of offensiveness in the history of this show.
I'm going to make a complaint.
It's a bit late.
Yeah.
Maybe in the morning.
Okay. I'll sleep on it.
Yeah.
With a drink in me, yeah.
And that's how we wrap up season 3.
And how we wrap up Maddie's, Caroline Quentin's, Jonathan Creek career.
Yeah. She's hinted she might like to come back. But
Actually, now, well, let's chat about that in a moment.
we'll come to this.
This episode was first broadcast on the 2nd of January 2000, so the first millennial episode.
If we're going to argue with about when the millennium started now.
Yeah, well, they can argue. Before we get to Caroline Quentin, let's have a run through of the rest of the cast this week. As you mentioned, John Bird played D.I. Gallo. Born in 1936, he's an actor and writer. This is his first of 3 Jonathan Creek episodes.
Okay.
Most famously known for part of the Bremner and Fortune trio. He's also been in Absolute Power, Chambers, Cluedo, Jabberwocky, Educating Marmalade, The Late Show, and not so much a programme, more a way of life.
I think he does a lot of radio stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah. Nina Susania played Karen and Blaine. She was born in 1969 and has appeared in Love Actually, Last Tango in Halifax, Silk, 5 Days, Sorted, Doctor Who, Teachers, Doctors, and The Bill. She's a famous face, a well-known face anyway.
Yeah, very well. Particularly for Love Actually, when it's the festive season.
Harry Peacock played Floyd. He was born in 1978 and has starred in recently the reboot of Porridge, Toast of London, The Kennedys, which we discussed last time, Star Stories, The Bill, and is the son of actor Trevor Peacock, who is in an upcoming episode of Jonathan Creek, and the brother of Daniel Peacock, who was in the original Porridge. I think it was the Christmas special movie.
Okay.
You'll recognise his face as well, Daniel Peacock.
We'll look out for that one.
Teenage Health Freak. Did you ever watch that as a youngster?
No.
Okay. Was your dad in that?
maybe a bit too young.
Frank Geiger was played by John Bennett. Now, he died in 2005, aged 76. You might have seen him in The Fifth Element, The Pianist, Watership Down,
The what?
The Bill, Doctors, Casualty, Mulberry, Saracen, Doctor Who from 1974 to 77. I think he was in 10, 11 episodes.
He's close to the full bingo set there.
Zedkar's Dixon of Doc Green, The Avengers, The Saint, and he was also in the original Porridge. You must have recognised Lizzie Gillespie.
Yes.
Hattie Heeridge played her, and she was born in 1959, an actress and stand-up comedian. She has been in Lex and The Guardians, but is most recognisable for playing Holly in Red Dwarf.
An iconic role.
So we get on to Caroline Quentin.
Who?
She wasn't in Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
Born in 1960, as well as Jonathan Creek. She is just as well known for Men Behaving Badly, perhaps more so actually than Jonathan Creek. She played Dorothy.
I think we touched on that back at the start of the show, didn't we?
Yeah.
Start of the podcast, the very first episode.
Yeah. One of my favourite shows as a kid.
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was one of those ones that was appointment viewing. You didn't have your recording capabilities that you have nowadays.
She has also starred in Blue Murder, Life of Riley, Doc Martin, where she teamed up again with Martin Clunes, Doctors, Life Begins, Kiss Me Kate, The Bill, and Casualty.
Kiss Me Kate was the one that was meant to be her big vehicle, but I don't think it really took off the way they maybe hoped.
She certainly had a very varied and expansive career.
Successful career, I would
Very,
say.
yes. She's also mentioned us on Twitter before, I think. Or replied or responded.
Yeah, hopefully again if I harass her enough about this episode.
Don't harass her so much.
Well,
Prod her gently.
She won't listen this far, it'll be fine.
Give her a little poke.
You shut up.
Her husband was a Jonathan Creek runner.
Yes.
Not a marathon runner, part of the crew. That's where she met
He
him.
does the London Marathon, dresses Jonathan Creek every year.
Well, yeah, like the...
Last time's episode was based on his hobby.
yeah. And she is also known as the ex-wife of Paul Merton. Or
I
Paul
don't think she's
Merton.
known as that, it's just a fact about her.
No, I think lots of people do. They were a couple. Back in the 80s, they were one of the it couples.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, she has stated that she would return to Jonathan Creek if asked. But as yet, I don't think that offer has been made.
I think it's specifically not been made because I don't think it's a recent comment that she's made. I think she said this as far back as
2009,
9 or 10 years
yeah.
ago, yeah.
It'd be good to see her back.
I suspect perhaps she maybe didn't leave in the best of terms then.
I'm not sure about that.
Or you think that maybe the plot's just moved on? They
I
can't...
think so, yeah. We shall see what the future brings. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a 30th anniversary special.
It wouldn't take too much creativity to bring the character back.
Not
in
at
a
all.
reasonable way.
She was also a pop star.
That's not true.
No. But she did have a single which reached number 25 in the charts, along with Leslie Ash as Quentin and Ash. Obviously, Leslie Ash being her co-star in Men Behaving Badly.
That's right.
You get anything for us this week?
Trivia-wise, just a little comment from Alan Davis about the filming of the episode. Outdoor scenes at the cottage down in the Peak District. He commented about David Rennick's knack for writing good police officers. I think that's probably fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously know from previous conversations that Caroline Quentin was very heavily pregnant. Apparently, literally went into labour while they were still shooting before they completed the episode. But
Yeah, I think it was the hostage, the day of the filming of the hostage scene.
when she's fainting to the ground and everything like
Yes,
that. Yeah.
and that evening she went into labour 10 weeks premature.
Not ideal, but fortunately all worked out for the best in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was basically the
Okay.
report.
Well, I think it was a good send-off to Caroline Quentin. And I think, Maddie, we have discussed that her role oscillated from being very important and enjoyable to being underwritten and not,
There.
yeah.
Essentially, she was just there. It did improve. The last couple were better.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, maybe it's good that she didn't have a specifically written farewell episode, because I think this is fine. I don't know how they're going to...
Well,
I can't remember how they cover writing her out of it, but...
I presume that at that point when she left, she was leaving to have a child, that perhaps there wasn't an agreement that she was leaving, because they didn't the next episode isn't for a couple of years.
Yeah, so maybe they didn't know what was going to
And
be
it was in
happening.
intervening years where perhaps she says, no thanks, I'm too busy, I've got other things on.
I imagine that's the case. And I imagine that's why she's maybe not been extended the olive branch just yet. I'm only guessing, though. It's not based on any information.
We've got the episode review, but we also, I think, have a season review, but it's going to be a very odd one because of the nature of a lot of the...
Yeah, it's not really crimes to... Well, we'll skim through them.
We'll do what we can. Let's start with this week's episode review.
Okay.
So, motive, not really applicable, is it? There's not a motive there for the...
Oh, yes, no. Let's say the motive for Floyd to kill Geiger was fear and...
Self-defence to an extent.
Self-defence to an extent, yeah. Taking control.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was why he didn't do it to take control. I think
but
it
see,
was the threat.
But this crime wasn't... The whole...
That wasn't what Jonathan was investigating.
Yeah, he admitted he killed him, so there's no puzzle or mystery around that.
No.
The clues, I suppose, would be the downpour, the flooding itself, the disappearing ink, and the playing cards.
Yeah.
Not much.
Oh, the cigarette cards or the playing cards.
Sorry, the cigarette
Yeah.
cards, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Again, there isn't a gotcha here. No one was got.
No, I think we maybe need to revise how we do these episode reviews at some point.
And guilt, again, not applicable. He's admitted his guilt.
Yeah. That was good. I'm glad we did that.
Well, we've got the other episodes in this season. Let's see what we've got. Where do we start?
Episode 1.
Which was...
It was Spearfish.
Yeah,
And the mystery was, how did he not die when he was shot, and where did the money come from?
It's not really applicable. Like, this one isn't applicable.
There's
isn't
not a crime.
No.
Well, if there is a crime, it was by the guy who then died and then was then assassinated by shadowy royal family forces. I really hate the idea that happens.
Why?
I don't want to be shot by royal family assassins.
I think you're perfectly safe.
I hope so. Anyway.
If you were, they would silence me. I wouldn't say anything. I'd take some cash, mind you.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we'll leave that one. Next.
It was the dreamer, Tiresias.
Tiresias. Oh yeah, old, what's her face?
Auntie Agatha. No, what was her name?
Yeah, whatever.
Audrey?
Audrey, yeah. Old Audrey.
Again, no crime.
No crime, no.
Although there was. The guy tried to frame somebody for murder.
Oh, the
victim.
victim who killed himself.
Yes.
Okay, but...
So he can't be tried, he's dead.
Yep, so...
And there's no case against anybody else for anything else.
Not applicable. That was easy. Next, what do we have?
The next one was the...
Omega Man.
Again, is there a crime here? I suppose wasting police time, in theory. Because he's called them out to this mystery that's not really a mystery, but then it's a tip-off, it's not really
Not applicable.
Yeah, no, we'll skip that one.
We discussed this during the season here.
We did.
It's not... It's certainly not Columbo.
I think we should get listeners to tweet in or email in with their ideas for revising the season and episode review format.
Okay, do that then. So what's next? Ghost for GE.
The less said about that, the better in terms of the actual mystery. That was a good episode, though.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. I'm going for this one, not guilty. There's no proof whatsoever.
That he killed the old man? Or that she...
That she killed the old man.
Oh, she didn't kill the old man. Oh, she did. Oh, she did kill the old man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only evidence is the guy who can't remember what happened.
Yeah, there's no proof whatsoever of
So if she
this.
doesn't confess to killing him, then no, there's not any proof that she did it.
No. Straightforward enough.
Yeah, it was easy.
And finally we have the episode from last time, which was Miracle in Crooked Lane.
Again. Oh no, this guy's guilty. But will he be found guilty? Yes.
No proof.
He's got no alibi.
But there was no proof that he killed this. It's not what he rigged up at the house.
Yeah, but they've got motive and opportunity for the murder.
Yeah.
They've got his comments to Jonathan and so on earlier about the guy really not liking the guy, so you've got additional motive.
I don't think...
Circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, I'm still going not guilty. I think if that decent defence lawyer saying that my client didn't do that, you need to prove that he did. The whole thing about the alibi, I don't think that really stands up. I don't think you can prove that. It's all very well Jonathan explaining it, but I'm not sure if you can nail that down.
But even if you can prove that he doesn't have an alibi, it doesn't mean he did it.
Yeah.
But then cases have been decided on flimsier evidence in real life.
I'm still going not guilty on that one.
I think they might get him.
Okay.
This week's episode, nothing really. The guy's admitted to killing the guy.
Yeah, there's not
a crime beyond that.
Yep.
Well, there's all the drug stuff, but again, that's separate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was exciting. Like, yeah,
It sums up the season.
Everybody
The issues with
that
the
is
season.
listening is delighted that we went through that process. Yes, it was a weak season with a couple of gems towards the end. But even this week again, the criticism that I gave in the first few weeks, the supernatural overkill. These are things that if these were peppered in over 6-7 seasons, that'd be great. But
Please just give us someone being killed for sex or money. Jealousy or something like that. It's the
or to hide a family secret, or you know.
Maybe we'll get that next time. It's 2001's Christmas special, although it is called Satan's Chimney, so there's certainly overtones of
Supernatural.
We'll see.
Well,
We'll
fingers
see.
crossed that after 2 years, everyone's back to wanting more.
Good old-fashioned murder.
Let's hope so. More murders. Let's have a hashtag for that somewhere.
Okay, that's us then, Ian.
Yeah, okay, we'll see folk for what will presumably be a very long episode in a
Yeah, it's a
couple of
2 hour.
weeks.
Yeah.
Set aside some extra time for that one, guys, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Cheerio.
Bye.